There will come a day when you sit at the edge of your bed, your head in your hands, staring at the floor, thinking, I can't do this anymore. It's an unbearable moment because it feels like the weight of the world has finally crushed you. Maybe it's the failures stacking up. Maybe it's the betrayal of those who said they'd stand by you. Or maybe, worst of all, it's the quiet realization that you are not who you wanted to be. And so giving up seems like the logical option. But let's pause here. The question you must ask yourself is not whether you should give up, but what would happen if you did? Imagine it. Play it out. What kind of person would you become if you let despair dictate your next move? Because you don't just lose a battle when you quit. You lose your soul's fight against mediocrity, against the slow decay of your potential. Now, consider the alternative. What if you bore that weight just a little longer? Not forever, just one more day. What if instead of collapsing, you took one more step forward, however small? Because here's the hard truth. The chaos that surrounds you, the suffering that engulfs you, it isn't just punishment, it's raw material. And if you can learn to bear it, even shape it, you can transform yourself into something formidable. The people you admire, the ones who have built something meaningful, they weren't free from suffering. No, what set them apart was their decision to push forward despite it. They had every reason to quit just like you, but they didn't. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? The person who buckled under the weight of their struggles, or the one who turned them into stepping stones? One more step, one more day. That's all you need to focus on. Because when you stand at the edge of despair, you are standing at the threshold of transformation. And that is not the moment to give up, it's the moment to begin. There are moments in life when the weight of existence feels unbearable. When every effort seems futile, when the struggle stretches on without an end in sight, and when despair whispers that surrender is the only way out. It is in these moments, in the depths of exhaustion and hopelessness, that a dangerous thought arises. What's the point? This is where most people break. This is where many decide that the burden is too much to carry, that the fight is no longer worth the cost. But what if this very struggle, the one that makes you want to give up, is not a sign of failure, but a signal of transformation? What if the suffering, as unbearable as it seems, is the necessary precursor to growth? Life at its core is suffering. That is not a cynical perspective. It is reality. No one escapes hardship, no one avoids pain, and no one lives untouched by tragedy. The only difference between those who rise and those who remain broken is the way they confront that suffering. When a person is pushed to the brink, they are standing at the crossroads between destruction and transformation. It is in the confrontation with suffering that a choice must be made. You can choose to see it as meaningless, as an unfair affliction meant to crush you, or you can see it for what it really is, a test, a forging process. A moment where the person you were begins to dissolve and the person you could be starts to emerge. Think of the strongest individuals you know. The ones who command respect, who have built something meaningful, who stand tall in the face of adversity. Were they spared hardship? Did they glide through life without obstacles? Or were they people who walked through fire and refused to be consumed by it? Every single person who has accomplished anything worth admiring has suffered. Not in a trivial way, but in a way that shook them to their core. The difference is that they didn't retreat from that suffering. They embraced it, wrestled with it, and used it as fuel. It was not comfort that made them who they are. It was struggle. The process of growth is violent. It is not gentle. It does not happen in moments of ease and relaxation. Growth requires pressure, resistance, discomfort. It requires the breaking down of old patterns, the confrontation with deep-seated fears, the willingness to endure suffering in pursuit of something greater. The person who lifts heavy weights does not grow stronger by staying in their comfort zone. Strength is built by pushing past limits, by tearing muscle fibers so they can rebuild stronger. This is a universal principle, not just of the body, but of the mind and the soul. When you stand at the edge of despair, the easy path is always to retreat. To surrender to the pain, to shrink from the challenge, to believe that the suffering is proof of inadequacy rather than a necessary part of the process. But here's the truth. Every time you endure, every time you push through when everything inside you screams to stop, you are forging yourself into something stronger. You are proving to yourself that you are capable of carrying more than you ever thought possible. And that matters. Because if you can bear today's suffering, then you can bear tomorrow's. And if you can bear tomorrow's, then you can bear whatever comes after that. And before you realize it, you are no longer the same person who once wanted to give up. The pain you feel now is not permanent, but the strength you gain from enduring it is. This is the cost of transformation. If it were easy, it wouldn't mean anything. If it didn't hurt, it wouldn't change you. The struggle is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are in the middle of something profound. It is a sign that you are in the very process of becoming. So when you are about to give up, stop and ask yourself, what if this moment, the one that feels unbearable, is actually the beginning of something greater? What if the suffering is shaping you in ways you cannot yet see? What if you are not breaking down, but breaking through? This is not the end. The end. It never was. This is where you decide who you are. And that decision, right here, right now, will determine everything that comes next. Life is chaotic. No one escapes this truth. At any given moment, there are countless forces pulling at you, demanding your attention, overwhelming you with responsibilities, uncertainties, and the weight of existence itself. The sheer complexity of life can be paralyzing. It is easy to feel lost, to feel as if everything is spiraling out of control, and to believe that no matter how much effort you put in, nothing will ever truly be in order. This is where many people falter. They allow the chaos to consume them, to dictate their actions, or worse, their inactions, or worse, their inactions. When life becomes overwhelming, the instinct is often to shut down, to retreat, to abandon the fight altogether. But this is the worst possible response, because while chaos is inevitable, the way you confront it is entirely within your control. The mistake people make is believing that they must tackle everything at once, that they must have the full picture figured out before they can take action. This is an impossible demand. It leads only to frustration and despair. The truth is that no one ever has everything figured out. No one sees the entire path ahead. The difference between those who succeed and those who collapse under the weight of disorder is not in their ability to control everything, but in their ability to take a single step forward despite not knowing exactly where the road leads. The way out of chaos is not through grand gestures or sudden transformations. It is through small, deliberate actions. It is through ordering what is immediately within your grasp. When everything feels like it is falling apart, stop and ask yourself, what is one thing I can fix right now? It doesn't matter how small it is. Maybe it is as simple as cleaning your room. Maybe it is sending that one email you have been avoiding. Maybe it is making a single phone call. The point is not that these small actions will instantly solve all your problems. The point is that they establish momentum. They remind you that you are not powerless, because here's the reality. If you can take control of even the smallest thing in your life, then you have proof that order is possible. And if order is possible in one area, then it is possible in another. The process builds upon itself. People often underestimate the power of incremental improvement. They want drastic changes. They want instant relief from their suffering. But that is not how life works. If you are surrounded by chaos, it is not because of one singular moment. It is the accumulation of countless small problems left unattended. And if that is how chaos builds, then it stands to reason that order must be built the same way, step by step. Each day you take one thing that is within your power and you set it right. Then you take another and another. Over time, what was once an insurmountable mess becomes something manageable. More importantly, you become someone who is capable of managing it. The world rewards those who take responsibility for their own existence. No one will come to save you. No one is going to fix everything for you. But the incredible thing about that realization is that it means you are the one who gets to shape your life. You are the one who decides whether chaos will consume you or whether you will impose order upon it. This is not an easy task. It requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires the willingness to face the parts of your life that you have neglected or avoided. But the alternative is worse. If you do nothing, the chaos does not remain stagnant. It grows. It compounds. And the more you ignore it, the more power it gains over you. The only way to push back is to act. Imagine what would happen if you committed to this principle. Imagine if, instead of feeling overwhelmed, you made it a habit to address one small thing each day. Imagine if, instead of looking at the enormity of your struggles, you focused on solving the smallest piece of the puzzle first. You would begin to see changes, not just in your circumstances, but in yourself. You would become someone who is no longer at the mercy of disorder. You would become someone who has the ability to create structure where there was once only confusion. And that is what separates those who build meaningful lives from those who let life happen to them. It is easy to believe that your problems are too big, that the world is too chaotic, that you will never find stability. But that is only because you are looking at the problem in its entirety rather than focusing on what is immediately within your grasp. No one builds a great life all at once. No one fixes everything overnight. But if you can commit to ordering even the smallest part of your world each day, you will find that the chaos that once seemed unbearable begins to shrink. And more importantly, you will become the kind of person who is capable of facing it head-on. Because the goal is not to eliminate chaos entirely. That is impossible. The goal is to become strong enough to bring order to it one step at a time.